What is your WhatsApp message to school?
No, it's fine. Let me just leave from the machine. Yeah.
You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home. You've been kept down for much too long. Stand up, please, and say I am free. Don't forget you are welcome home, welcome home. Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land. All will be happy and gay. Come with me.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Sammy.
Yes.
Hey, Sammy.
Hi. Hey, Dave. How are you, man?
I'm good.
Good to see you. I think that we're having a lot of couple of our friends joining. It's just a minute past the hour of 6, so we should be starting right about now. We have 15 people, So would you mind us just spend some 2 minutes, wait for a few others, and we can start?
Yeah, that's great. Let's wait for everyone to come in. No worries.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
You did, but that meeting.
Yes.
All right. All right, so colleagues, I think that we allowed some 5 minutes to wait for a couple of our friends. And seeing in the WhatsApp groups that some people are having challenges joining. Ivy is handling that, for us. So please just bear with us. We will start now. We are expecting about 75 people. We have 24 of you. The time is 6:06. And it's time to start. What we've been waiting for is here. It's Think Stories. And today, the 13th is Friday the 13th, but it's good news for us. Friends, colleagues from Africa, all over the place. I am so excited to welcome you to tonight's edition of Think Stories. And we're going to have a very exciting time this evening, really, really exciting. So I need you to brace yourself for what is coming. Now, I know that all of you do have the brochures that we shared on the WhatsApp pages. If you don't have them, please get in and check. So I am going to just go through the program outline. And then when we are done, I will invite Ivy, event coordinator, to take us through some housekeeping rules so that we will be able to, make sure we have this meeting smoothly. So we're going to have the protocols, and then I will introduce to you my good friend, David Lennon, who will be speaking to us. And then after that, we will have one of my favorite parts. So we have a Q&As after David, then we will break into, right? So we have breakout sessions. So you're going to be with the people that you were in the same group with in the WhatsApp group. And it's groups of about 10 to 15. You discussed the case study that I shared earlier. I'll be going through the case study again, don't worry. And then after that, we come back, right? Now, we will appoint leaders for the various groups. So some of you on your feet and volunteer to be leaders for the group. And you tell us what you discussed, some of the nuggets that came out of the conversations. If there are any Q&As, we will answer them. And then we will go to the, you have a survey. We have a survey for you to please fill for us before you leave. And then we can close. So it promises to be very wonderful evening. I have been having sleepless nights because the joy that I've had over this program has been too awesome. So before I, introduce David and kind of give you a brief reason why there is Think Stories, shall I introduce to you my very able assistant, who is also leading the coordination of this event, Ivy. Ivy is a communications professional based here in Ghana. She's a communications lead for Youth Bridge Foundation. They organize the Africa Youth and Governance Conference, and she is the event organizer for this meeting. So Ivy, if you can hear me, please take it over.
Thank you, Sammy. I hope everyone can hear me. Good evening to everyone. I'm so happy that, like Sammy said, the day we've all been waiting for is here. I just don't want to waste any time, so I'll quickly take everyone through the guidelines for today. So our general rules would be, of course, we, kindly ask that you would mute your microphone if you're not speaking. Try and make sure that your microphone is off all the time when you're not speaking, so it can limit some of the distractions that we may have, because we are recording. And so, would want to limit all of the distractions. Another thing would be that if you have any questions or inquiries, we're pre-assigned into WhatsApp groups. And so we entreat everyone to either use the WhatsApp groups or the chat session, and then your inquiry will be responded to. Also, to facilitate a good breakout session, kindly rename yourself. So by renaming yourself, you just go to participants in the options below, and then you click on your name. You right-click on your name, or you right-click on more. It will have one of the options as rename. So you rename yourself using the example I have shared here. So the example would be your first name, the country you are coming from, and then, or the country you're representing, and then the group number you were in. So if you were in G1 Think Stories, you're in group 1. If you were in G2 Think Stories, you're in group 2, and so on and so forth. So kindly rename yourself. So for me, my first name is Ivy. I'm from Ghana, and I was in group 1. So everyone would just, because if you do not rename yourself, it's very difficult for us to assign you during the breakout sessions. So kindly rename yourself. You can just take, about 10 seconds and then rename yourself. So Sammy, I'm sure I'll be coming back to give more Zoom rules, but for now, these are the Zoom rules. Thank you so much. Enjoy the program.
Thank you very much, Ivy. So we will work with this. And so now let's get to the exciting part of this. Why Think Stories? Personally, I am a storyteller. And years ago, I worked with Ghana's leading English radio station, City FM. Now, I held a number of, positions, but one of the positions that I like was head of research and features. And my role was to lead in the production of various documentaries. And so I did travel across the length and breadth of the country and beyond, gathering stories and producing documentaries on Ghana and on Africa. Now, while doing that, my eyes were open to so many things. For example, one of the things that was so clear to me was that we don't own our story as a continent and as a country. And a typical example was the fact that you may have heard of the great Asante warrior from Ghana called Yasantoa in 1900 when the British fought the Asantes in Ghana. She is believed to have led the war. She is believed to have held a gun, and she was the commander in chief. Now, in my research leading up to that, it turns out that she was a warrior, she was the commander, but she never held a gun to fight, for example. Now, there is a picture of Yasantoa, which is in our books all across Ghana and internationally, and that is what is used to represent that woman. Now, it turns out that wasn't her. So our stories as a people have been written for us by anybody else apart from Africa. But this is the point I seek to make. While going through all this, I interviewed a Nigerian historian called Chinwenzu. You can Google him, a very, very brilliant, smart, controversial historian, Chinwenzu. He is a Pan-Africanist, and we spoke on the fundamentals of Pan-Africanism. And I asked Chinwenzu that historically, Africa, civilization started in Africa. And if you look at what we have achieved, it is believed that even Pythagoras' theorem, the theory was not developed by Pythagoras. History has it that the Egyptians actually built the pyramid using Pythagoras' theorem. But today, when you want that history, you will not get it from Africa because it is believed it is not from us. And so many of our stories. So how come that the realities on the ground does not reflect to our standing, and that when you are looking at the bottom of things, that is where you find Africans? And he told me so many things. One of the things he said is that we allowed ourselves to be conquered. Conquered people lose their sovereignty. A conquered people lose their independence. So that was one of the reasons why Africa, we are at the bottom. The other thing that Chimwenzu said, which caught my attention as a writer and as a communicator, he said Africans lost something called writing. And the thing is that what you don't write is not yours. A short pencil is better than a long memory. And so Africans, we lost our history. We lost what belonged to us because we failed to write. And so the whole world is a story. And every one of us here is a story living in the story of the world. If you do not, write your story or understand the concept of storytelling, you lose something vital out of your life. And so for me as a communicator, I thought about it in the organizational terms. How much of your company's story is owned by the company? And how much of that are you using to connect with other people? The thing is that there is no communication form which connects to all kinds of learners, whether you're a kinetic learner or you're an auditory learner or you're a visual learner, like storytelling. It is the only form of communication that connects to all learners. And when we build emotional connection, our impact is better. So I founded Think Stories, so that when we think communication, we think stories. And so for us on this platform, we are going to learn and understand and even build on our understanding of the fundamentals of storytelling and how we can use that to drive the brand narrative of our organizations and impact the bottom line. So that is why we are here. And tonight, we have a gentleman called David Lennon, and David is an amazing storyteller based in New York. He is he's worked for Netflix, for Wall Street Journal. He's worked for the New York Times, and now he's the executive creative director for Fortune Media based in the United States of America in New York. Tonight, we are going to run through the life of David and how he's grown to be a storyteller. Then David will walk us through some of the projects he's done, the objective that they set for themselves, the nuggets that help them, and tease out some of the lessons that we can work with. After that, I will come back again, and then we'll have some Q&As with David. Then we get into the breakout sessions where we will discuss, the case study and tease out some few nuggets that we will use to, push ourselves up as professionals across the continent. So it promises to be an exciting time tonight. And I want you to just be patient. It's a Friday, and let's have a very, very brilliant intellectual discourse. So without much ado, I'd like to introduce David and to take over and speak to us. So all the way from New York, he's our friend. The last time David was in Rwanda, and that's where he met you know, a lot of us on this platform, including my very good friend, Yaku Onu, who became friends with David. I became friends with him afterwards, and now here he is. Dave, great to have you. And nice to have you in your son's room.
Yeah, well, thank you. So yeah, that's a great introduction. Thank you, Sammy. I'm really excited to talk today. Before I do, I want to go through like a number of caveats that you're all going to have to understand and work with. One is that I've got a 3-year-old boy that's hiding behind this door, and at some point he's going to be banging on it. So if you hear banging, it's him. We also live 2 blocks from a fire station and a police station. So we might have some emergency vehicles come in. So I might have to mute as they go past. And then I've also got a kind of flag, which is very obvious, that I'm from Liverpool. I have a funny accent, and I apologize if anyone doesn't understand what I'm saying. Sammy is going to be recording this, so there will be playback, and we can obviously answer any questions at the end. And I spoke to Sammy and Yao and talked about what today was going to be, and how it was all going to work, and basically come to the conclusion that I've got more than 20 years working at some of the biggest media agencies in London and also in New York. And it's not my job to come on here today and tell any of you how to do your job. I've never worked in Africa. I've visited twice. I spoke at one event for Perez Tigedam, the Voices of Africa event in Rwanda, which was incredible, where I met Yao and then got introduced to Sammy. But I said the same thing there. It's not my job to come here and tell you how to do your job. It's really my job to come here and tell you where I've been, what I've done, and then it's up to you individually to take the lessons that might apply to you or that can kind of benefit you, and ignore the bits that don't. And all of you are going to be different. You're all, I think, you know, more than 10 different countries across Africa and around the world who are listening today. And thank you for coming. And so it really is whatever makes sense in your city, your region, your country, is what you're going to take out of this. We're going to do questions at the end. And I think we're hoping to do 2 sets of Q&As. So if you don't catch everything in the first one, we will catch it in the second one. I've also got lots of notes dotted around to help me through this. And I'm also going to show some digital and video examples of the work that I've done. But to kind of set the scene of why I'm here and why I'm talking to you today, I basically messed up my exams in school. I didn't pay enough attention. I left school with hardly any grades, and those that I did get were bad. And I luckily got into an art foundation course that kind of showed me the world of creativity and what I could do within the art space. And then near the end of that course, a university tutor, John Sherfield, came, visited, and said, "You'd be really good in advertising because you have good ideas." I was like, okay. I didn't know what advertising was. I didn't really have a concept of it at like 19 years old in Liverpool. And so I agreed, went off on this course to do design and art direction. And I thought I was going to be a graphic designer, but I very quickly got told, your ideas are better than your execution. So I was like, well, how can I work in advertising? And he said, you can be a copywriter. I didn't know what copywriting was either. And when he told me, I was like, I got C's in English. Like, I shouldn't be allowed near the English language. But he said, no, you come up with really good ideas, and this is a way for you into the industry. So I got lucky with John. He kind of took me under his wing. And out of university, I was very lucky to get picked up in my degree show by a guy, Dave Bilcliffe, who worked at McCann Erickson, who was a copywriter. He took me under his wing. And I went for a 2-week work placement and basically managed to turn that into 4 years by literally doing every dirty job that I could within the agency, from working on 47 versions of a dear valued customer letter for a bank, all the way through to helping every creative team mount foam boards for presentations and stay there past midnight every night, and just really kind of stay on the carousel, you know, not let them let me go. And I worked it over time. I built up experience everywhere from direct mail all the way through to a TV campaign that me and our director, Jim, I worked with, got sold through. And so it was a really great grounding in creativity, very much heavily on advertising, and storytelling didn't really come into it because we were forced into very small sections of storytelling, a 30-second TV commercial, maybe a 1-page print ad, but not much more than that. Then my time came at McCann Erickson. I knew what the writing on the wall was, and I needed to leave. And so the only step outside of that, was the biggest agency outside of London, based in Manchester, was to go to London. And I got an interview at Bloomberg. I really didn't want to go. I didn't want to work in a financial company. But I turned up at the interview and was kind of blown away. This is back in 2000. Bloomberg had like glass cubed TV studios. When you walked into the building, you kind of walked through these studios. And it was an old building in London that had been converted into like this incredible office space, kind of 20 years ahead of its time, really. And they seduced me to go and join the company for 6 months. And I ended up staying there for 14 years. And that was because I met a great group of people. I had a great boss, Kirsten Schellenberg, our creative director of the in-house creative team, of which I was part of. And then I met my little partner in crime, Jim Piercy, who I worked with for 17 years in 2 different companies. And a couple of years after I joined, a guy, Trevor Fellows, who's running TV ad sales, came over and asked us to make a TV commercial for one of his clients. We kind of threw ourselves at it. We had no budget, but we made a success of it. And we started to make in around, I think, 2003, 2004, like really low budget TV commercials for clients. Like they were only paying us 20,000, 30,000 pounds for airspace on Bloomberg TV. And we would go off and make a 30-second commercial. It might be motion graphics. It could be maybe some film, but not much, and super low budget. Like we're talking, you know, thousands of pounds, low thousands of pounds to make them. But we kind of built up an understanding of what we were doing. And at the same time, we started to film internal videos for the Bloomberg's HR department. And that was where we had to go off and start to interview people and ask them about, you know, their view on Bloomberg and why they worked there and why it was so great and what they see in their careers. And it was really a crash course in how to interview people, how to get them to perform on camera when they're non-professional talent, and really in very short spaces of time in high pressure environments where, you know, the video needs to get done today. How can we interview as many people as quickly as possible and put them into a video? Now, it's funny that, you know, no one really tells you this, but you never really understand in your career what skills you're learning, what techniques you're picking up, how that's going to pay off in future life. And me and Jim had watched this same documentary called Ibiza 90, a short film about chilling, about 500 times each. And they had a load of clubbers in Ibiza, and they had to put stories together with these clubbers and DJs in 1990. And we basically stole that style. All of our videos look like that for the longest time, and technically even all the way through to today, where you're combining interviews and B-roll, whatever you can shoot in the location that you're in, to put together and make a good story. And so it was really an interesting time. The business took off. the TV business took off. Trevor got moved over to New York to run TV ad sales for Bloomberg globally. And because we'd had this success primarily just in Europe, we needed to replicate it for Trevor in the US. And so I had the opportunity to move to New York, which I'd wanted to do since I was a kid, because Liverpool's a big port city. And we'd grown up around pictures of, New York up on people's living room walls and kitchens. And so there was a huge romance of going to New York, and Bloomberg, because it was headquartered in New York, it was a great company to stay with and get that transition. So Trevor and Kirsten kind of helped that go through with the CEO, Lex Fenwick. And I arrived in New York and we were literally starting at ground zero. I remember landing in New York and Jim was the second phone call I made, which was like, I've landed, I'm good. I still can't believe that they let me come over when we think that the internet is going to kill TV. And so at the time in like 2007, digital video hadn't really taken off in a good way. Connections weren't good. We couldn't do this type of thing back in 2007, certainly on video conference. And so TV was kind of the top of the tree, and most videos that we made were played locally within Bloomberg to new people coming in to see a video presentation. But no one really thought of putting video on digital in any meaningful way. But very quickly, when I arrived in New York, we realized that the technology just made this huge leap. YouTube was launched, digital cameras had gone from being HD cameras that people would carry around on the shoulders, very expensive camera crews, very big, heavy equipment, lots of people on shoots. All of a sudden, Canon released their DSLR camera that's this big that you could use photography lenses on, and the footage looked just as good and in some cases better than what we were shooting on HD cameras. And it enabled this documentary style storytelling to really take off. And so we were lucky in that we were very much at the forefront of this. We had a client, Chase, that we made a video for, and we started to make tons of documentary style video, but with a really small crew. I worked with a guy, David Sutton, from Frantic Studio for many, many years. Dave was great. And we really kind of pioneered how we could fly in with the least amount of equipment to another city and film within a day or 2 days, maybe. A number of people at a client's location, film B-roll in the company, film B-roll externally in the city or in the town, and put together video stories. And we've seen this real shift in the industry of all the big money flying into TV commercials suddenly started to very quickly go down the other end of the seesaw and go into digital buys, and digital overtook, even with some of our biggest TV clients, digital became the kind of primary buy. And again, we got lucky because we'd done this thing at Bloomberg where we were making ads now that were 2 minutes long that were taking up entire ad breaks. So this move into digital storytelling was something that we didn't predict, but something that we were set up to do. And we'd made 2 minute long stories before. So our business took off in New York. Jim's took off in Europe, and he basically had Europe, Middle East, Africa, and also controlled the Asia Pac team as well. And globally, we'd started to really drum business. And so instead of doing $20,000 deals that like we were back in 2003, by the time I left Bloomberg in 2014, we were generating 35 million a year in branded content revenue, or deals linked with branded content. And so Trevor, the CRO, had moved to Wall Street Journal. And whereas Bloomberg had global reach, it didn't have a huge digital or TV audience. The Wall Street Journal is known worldwide. It had, I think, 2 million subscribers when I joined, and is a kind of, international powerhouse in terms of business finance reporting. And so I went into Wall Street Journal in New York, and Jim followed me, and he joined Wall Street Journal in London. The two of us quit at the same time at Bloomberg and left to join Trevor. And we walked into a team that wasn't based around documentary video style storytelling. We knew we had to change that, and we got incredibly lucky. And so Sammy mentioned before I'd worked for Netflix. Well, it's not technically correct, because what happened was we heard about a client, Netflix, who was going to make a show on Pablo Escobar. We heard this about 10 months before it launched. They've been working on it. And one of the salespeople come over. We discussed it. We were really excited because at the time, Netflix was almost like the heavyweight championship, when that was like, you know, one thing to one person and not many different belts. But it was really the heavyweight championship of branded content. The New York Times, T-Brand Studios had done a digital experience called, For Orange is the New Black, a show on Netflix that was a report on female prisons in the US. And it was super in depth. It combined articles, videos, illustrations, infographics, and really kind of raised the bar for digital storytelling that encompassed video rather than digital storytelling that like primarily just used video. And so The Atlantic followed up with a piece for the House of Cards, which was also on Netflix. And it was really the kind of bar that people needed to set for their team. And because the Wall Street Journal Custom Studios team had been print focused and had done some digital work, but was very kind of middle of the road, we knew we needed to break through. And so there was myself as Global Creative Director. There was Farrah Warner, who was our editorial director. And then there was Jordan Hyman, who was our sales director. And our boss above us, who's incredible, Sarah Dale, who basically kind of showed us to do this, put our arms up in the air and say, I'll control everything above us in terms of the business, sales, and all of the administration, and leave you three to concentrate on the kind of creative, the editorial, and selling this branded content through to clients. Because when we joined, like, they were miles back in terms of where they needed to be as a branded content studio. We got incredibly lucky. We heard about Netflix, this show. We found out it's going to be called Narcos. I went off and I produced a ton of storyboards, and we wanted to go to Netflix with this new idea of, listen, you know, you show entertainment programs and that's it, or films and that's it. There's no more DVD extras. DVD extras, like anyone that loved a film or a show used to love DVD extras, and Netflix didn't have that. And so we storyboarded out all of these videos that we could make for them about, you know, what was it like to live with Pablo Escobar, either as a family member or as one of his bodyguards during the periods of his reign, like when he was on the top of his game. What was it like to live in Colombia and be surrounded by all of the narco money that had been generated in a very short space of time, but they're completely flushed through the entire country. What was, you know, how did Pablo Escobar spend all of this money that he literally couldn't count, that he left to rot and get eaten away by rats in his safe houses? Like, what was it like to just have more money than what you could do with? And so we had all these ideas. We threw it out to Netflix. They liked them. They didn't come back. They went radio silent. And so one of the lessons is persistence. If you feel good about something, chase it. And we did. We eventually got them on the phone. And at the last minute, on a Friday at 6 p.m., we jump on a call. We speak to them, and they were going to give us some media money. And unfortunately, I was like, we're not going to take the money. I remember pressing mute and, you know, pardon my French, but I said, F no, we're not going to take the money. We have to win the branded content business. So we said to them, we refuse to take the media dollars unless you let us pitch. They're like, you're crazy, because we need a design mock by Friday, the following Tuesday. And that's when we knew we had our work cut out. And me, Farrah, Jordan, and Sarah kicked around loads of ideas. Monday morning, come up with a wireframe, which is 95% of what you're going to see today. And then worked with a company called The Charles, Sam and Aaron, who are friends of mine, who run a digital agency in the US, in New York. And we come up with Cocainomics. And Cocainomics was basically the branded content take on a narco show. And because we're Wall Street Journal, Sammy, can I share my screen? I'm gonna share.
Dave,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, Dave. Please go ahead, share your screen.
Oh, thank you. So we created Cocainomics. And what Cocainomics was taking the best of what Wall Street Journal is known for, which is that they can analyze a business, whether it's Apple or it's a mom and pop store, and really break it down to what is their business, how do they do it, who are their customers, how do they do it better than anyone else, so on and so forth. And then we can take Netflix's show Narcos, which is a kind of based on a true story, but still a fictional retelling of, certainly in the first 2 seasons, Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel. And so we wanted to come up with a site that would blow people away. And so that started right at the top of the page. Now, some experiences had started with video or a big, key piece of art, but we wanted to do something different. So we worked with the Charles, and if you click your mouse and hold, you can actually cut the lines out of the title. So I'm doing this live. Basically, you can cut lines of cocaine because what we have is 57,000 white pixels on the page that enable any user to kind of cut a line of cocaine. And we just thought that was a real cool way to open up the experience and grab people's attention using some WebGL animation. Then when you get into the experience, we had this kind of chart at the top that would enable you to follow your progress through the site, because it's a long scroll experience, which at the time was kind of how these things went. It's obviously got a little bit different over time, but right now that's where we are. And then also, if you look at the top right, we had this in English and Spanish because we wanted to make this a story of all sides of what went down, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Colombia and across South America and beyond. And so we made a bilingual version of the site as well that people could click on. So we start with a long piece of storytelling, long form digital article by Peter Green, who is an incredible journalist. Who'd worked at Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal, other places. And we had Peter analyze the business of the Medellin cartel and how they took $1 million industry and turned it into a multi-billion-dollar industry under the noses, by the way, of the DEA, who didn't even know Pablo Escobar was for 10 years, which was why he could grow so powerful without any interference. And then instead of bringing pictures of Pablo Escobar in, we actually brought in the actor who played him, Wagner Moura, from the Narco show itself, with some of the white, black, and red branding from the show. We brought in illustrations that were done by Jim out of Wall Street Journal in London. And then alongside the factual story on the right, we were bringing in trailers from the show itself that really tied in to the content that we had. So rather than just slapping a trailer at the end, this was contextual placement of the client's direct messaging their trailer from the show with the reporting of Pablo Escobar and how him and his cartel had so much power. And the reason that they had so much power is because he was incredibly smart. And so they would bribe people, like he's smuggling electronics. This isn't even when he was delivering drugs, but he was smuggling electronics over the border. That's what he was before he became a drug dealer. And he knew how to play the systems, and that kind of playing the system and knowing how to corrupt people and either give them plata or plomo, which was take my silver or take my lead, I'll shoot you dead, was basically how that organization was able to rise up and be so dominant, but then also the violence eventually brought them down. We followed it with another article based on the routes that people were using to smuggle drugs. And we had animations of how that changed over time through the decades, with the main kind of routes of trucks, boats, and planes, with trucks obviously through Mexico, with Mexico becoming a huge trafficking point. And then also the South American cartel starting to use the west coast of Africa as well. And then further down, we had our first video. And we got lucky with the video. So I'm going to play the video, if you just bear with me 1 second. And I'm going to talk over the top of it. Okay. So we got really lucky. We basically stole Steve Murphy and Javier Pina, who were the real life DEA agents that are featured. They're played by characters in the show, but their stories are told in the show of how they went down to Colombia and went on the hunt for Pablo Escobar as part of the DEA. We got incredibly lucky. We had 90 minutes with them in total. We took them into our studio, and we were expecting this to be just a blacked out studio with them being interviewed. And I'd asked them, bring as much memorabilia as you can, thinking that they'd maybe bring us a DEA cap or, you know, one of the photos of them after he died or something like that. They rocked up with 300 like actual photographs that Steve Murphy had taken. These were his personal photographs. And we realized that we basically had two very well documented stories. One was Pablo Escobar being in his prison in Colombia that he built for himself and done a deal with the government. And the other part was his actual, the day that he was killed, where Steve Murphy was a witness. I'm part of the team that was chasing him. And so it was really interesting to kind of put this together. And we've done it in the style of an old school slide presentation, because that's what Javier Pina and Steve Murphy do now. And so we really like this kind of take on how the only people who'd seen these were kind of FBI and DEA agents behind closed doors. And we were giving the audience very much a kind of look and feel of how they would have presented this themselves. And so we got really lucky with this, and it really kind of took off. That video was like, had super high completion rates. And fully enough, they've gone on and taken that video and used it with, I think, eSpeakers, which is a place that you can hire people to speak at your events. And like, that video's got like more than 1 million views now. So you know, the content that you create always has an afterlife. We've done other kind of, you know, infographics talking about the different cities that have been really affected by drug dealing, and how profits from the drug trade have changed over time. And then we also thought it was really important to actually go to Medellin and not just focus on the violence and the death and destruction and corruption that went on in Colombia, but also talk about the bounce back of the people in Medellin and how they were the first kind of city state that was overtaken and in complete narco control, and how they took it back. We got incredibly lucky. We had an incredible journalist from Colombia based in Bogota who worked with us. We took a small film crew down, Rich Butterworth, my director, and Brendan and Christine, and had this incredible 4-day experience of going everywhere in the city. So we went to Barrio Pablo Escobar, which was a town that basically Escobar built on top of a rubbish dump to look after the people who didn't even have homes. And then we ended up all the way down into the city, where we were talking to, this is the mayor of Colombia, who invited us to the city hall, where we talked through with him about, you know, Medellin's challenges today. And that storytelling of how it could bounce back felt right to us, to really tell both sides of the story. And then also we included this quiz at the end, so that if you're an expert in cocainomics, if you've read the whole experience, you could go through and take this quiz. And if you answer correctly, you get through, but the clock is always ticking. And then if you got the wrong answer, you got shot dead, and you always had to restart. And so that experience that we built really put us on the map. And, you know, it's literally, to this day, it's still the most impactful piece of content and storytelling that I've ever put together. The planets absolutely aligned. We had an incredible team working on it internally. We had an incredible team externally. The design of the site was incredible from the Charles, and everyone wanted to play their part. And so, you know, whether it was the people in Medellin who were willing to give us their time and go on camera and talk stuff through, or it was, you know, research analysts who just were working overtime and at weekends to really help us break stories, that was so important to what we built there. It won a ton of awards, like more than 100 awards, and I won 2 D&AD pencils, which would have made and did make my tutor, John Sherfield from university, very happy, because he'd won some previously. We won a Webby, and we also won a Cannes Lion. So it was great. It put our name on the map. Wall Street Journal Studios took off, and when we arrived, they were making 12 million a year in branded content revenue. 18 months later, they were making 70 million a year in branded content revenue. And we'd created something that, you know, was really impactful and was a calling card. And we stopped counting at $20 million, the amount of business that directly come just from what we've done there. So a portfolio piece, a really good portfolio piece, can drastically change your fortunes as a comms department or a creative team or whatever. So moving swiftly on, as we then, sorry, as
David,
we then,
I mean,
go on,
sorry,
Sammy.
just hold your thoughts. Hold your thought. I'm going to let you go ahead. But look, Coconomics was just a blockbuster on Netflix, and I think that those who have followed it will attest to what happened. But as you were talking, I mean, look, this is something that moved you from, did you say $18 million to about $70 million?
12 to 70 in 18 months.
12 to 70 million. And you made a good point.
70,
that a story.
Sorry, 70, not 17.
17, yeah.
70, 70.
70, okay, 70. Yeah, 12 to 70. So when you, a story that is well put together has what it takes to impact the bottom line of your organization, correct? Now,
Yeah.
I picked up a few nuggets that I thought that I should just put across before you come with a second campaign. Now, when you decided to tell the story of Coconomics and Colombia, you got Peter to analyze the business. So it's very important that you analyze and understand the story you want to tell. Right? You don't go out there and just tell stories on hearsay. Do some form of analysis. And then you spoke about the fact that, you know, you must know the story to tell well. For me, that's my point. Because Peter had to analyze and then help your team to know the story of Pablo Escobar, to know how they influence Colombia, to know the deals and the trades. So as a comms person, how much of your company do you know? So that if you work in, say, mining company, you just don't concern yourself with communications. You need to concern yourself with engineering. You need to understand the bit of a metallurgy. You need to understand environment, so that when you are telling the story, it can be more impactful.
Sammy,
I also picked.
Can I break in there as well? I want to say that wasn't just Peter. Like literally everyone who worked on this project had homework. Mm-hmm. We were getting books shipped in on the cocaine trade and what went on, and Pablo Escobar. Everywhere that we had storytelling, like we had a finding, it was emailed to the entire group, like camera people, producers, like writers, researchers. Everyone was informing everyone else of what they found, because there was we didn't have the story worked out. Like it literally all had to come together from when we jumped on a phone call with Netflix to pitch the business to when it launched was 8 weeks, including trip and everything. So it takes a whole team to come together and really understand that you're all storytellers, even if there's, you know, someone primary who is a journalist or whatever. Everyone's got a viewpoint, and that needs to be shared. That really helps.
Absolutely. So we are all interconnected. No one person tells an impactful story. So
Yeah.
again, storytelling is a team business. And I think that the point that I can't forget from tonight is the fact that you need to spend time to gather information. And if you don't have it, you need to deal with the people. That's how come you guys had to work with Steve Matthews, who was, you know, a witness when Pablo Escobar was killed. So I think that I've picked some really great nuggets, you know, and I guess we'll continue to share more as we continue. But great work there by your team.
Cool. Thank you. So Cocainomics was great. Wall Street Journal was great. And then with every big company, management always deem that they can do it better. And whatever was good suddenly wasn't. And so I started to look at other opportunities. And Vice, which at the time was, you know, really the leader in kind of youth culture storytelling, an opportunity came up to go and work with them to create a personal finance vertical and really support their business as they went to IPO. And so I'd always loved Vice. I'd loved the reporting and stories, and it was an opportunity to try myself at a completely different end of the spectrum from where I've been, which is B2B, finance and business and kind of high-end luxury. And so that's what happened. And we went off, myself to Vice to be group creative director under a guy, Tom Punch, who was CCO, and got to work with like some truly incredible, inspirational, talented young people. I was like one of the oldest people on our floor. And unfortunately, when I walked in, the kind of business blew up due to sexual harassment and workplace culture reporting in the New York Times, which exposed a lot of problems within the company that should have been exposed. And it was a difficult time for me because we were also, like, my wife was pregnant with Jack. And so it was a case of, do I stay or do I go? And I decided to stay. We had a really great creative team. And we did do some great work in a short space of time. I was there for 16 months. One of my favorite campaigns that I did there was for a thing called Tax Bar. And so I worked with a team of really, really talented people. And it was basically myself, Keenan, Makisa, and Janelle working on a pitch for Geico, where Geico wanted us to tell young adults how to file their taxes in America, which is done every April. And Geico always sees a huge spike in April, early May, as people get their tax returns and go out and take a couple of $1,000s to go and buy a car. And so Geico wanted to get more people to get better tax returns so that they could sell more car insurance. But teaching young, cool underground kids how to fill in taxes is, like, you know, one of the hardest briefs that I've ever worked on in my career. And I was misquoted in an Adweek story about this, because it was like, I said I couldn't do it, and then I said, and then I come up with this, and it wasn't. There was a concept that was on the shelf. So no story is ever dead. There was a concept that was on the shelf from the previous year that a guy, Joe, had come up with, that was, what if we made doing your taxes relaxing, which is the absolute opposite of what it is. And what if we caught people out by making taxes feel relaxing? And so we threw that out to the four of us when we were talking to Joe about the clients and our struggles with the brief. We couldn't crack it. And everyone seized on it, was like, that's great. And so we all started to come up with ideas of what we could do, and not just take that whole concept and make it, but how we could make it kind of weird and subversive and really kind of play towards the, underground nature of Vice and make it feel a little bit weird. And so that's what we did. We come up with this series of 4 episodes of Tax Spa. And Tax Spa, I'll play with some sound right now, has like, kind of new age ambient music in the background. And then we had this stylist and artist within her own right, who was a friend of Keenan's, our director. And she said, I've got the friend who's perfect for this. She's kind of weird. She'll have lots of fun. And we wanted someone who could come in and not just act like a spa assistant, but act like maybe a cyborg spa assistant, or like she's super weird and kind of like trippy and strange and goofy, and kind of, you never really understand where she's coming from and what she's doing. And it was one of like the funniest shoots I've ever been on, because basically we went through and we had all of this super intensive information of like different forms you had to fill in, how you'd fill them in, why they were important, what you do. And then we had silly things like paintings of scenes just hanging and like her referencing the deserts out there and stuff. And so it was really just something that, wanted to grab people's attention, but then be incredibly useful. And that still had that same DNA of all of the other pieces of work that I would, so I'm going to share my screen. The other pieces of work that I would bring in to into my storytelling, where you've got to educate the people who are watching. You can't just market at them. You can't just tell them what you want them to hear. You've really got to give them a reason to listen, and then weave in the information that you're trying to get across. And so this was just like a really interesting way to do it. We done like 4 different episodes, all on the same set, but we color coded them all slightly differently. And done different pictures hanging in the background. But yeah, it was a fun way to really take a very complicated thing to get your head around and push something out that was interesting. And so, again, that was another example of how your end product is the product of, not just the people who come up with the idea, but the people behind the camera, the producers you have on set, the talent, if you're using talent in front of the camera, and then a great editor. The editor that done a job on this was incredible. And the sessions that we had as we cut this together were like, you'd literally be on the floor crying with all this different stuff that was going on. So that was a really good experience of Vice. It was one of my high points. And, again, it's kind of, it was a good lesson that me and Sammy and Yao thought would be just a way to show how you can have a difficult to reach audience and still give them very functional information, but you've got to be super creative when you do that. Sammy?
Yeah. Yes, David. So for me, the question here, I picked down some notes. You must give your audience a reason to listen to you, right? So many a times we as communicators communicate because we think we have a message, but that you have a message is not enough to conclude that somebody wants to listen to you. Storytellers tell the story from the angle of the audience. So what would they want to hear? It's a good way of connecting emotionally with the people. So I like the fact that in breaking down a complex subject like tax, you looked at how, what people would ordinarily want to hear, and then created as a window to get into their lives. And that I thought was really important. I wanted to find out from you though, what was the thought process that got you to settle on spa
Well,
the
yeah.
medium of breaking down the text message. I thought that was very creative.
So again, like that wasn't our concept. And this is a thing that everyone should learn, is that every idea that you come up with might not be right for this client or this moment or this message, but you just need to file them away. And if you've got a creative team that works well together, that or a comms team that works well together, that kind of looks out for each other, then someone would have ran into that problem before. Someone would have dealt with that type of brief before. Someone would have made a piece of content, whether it's an article or a video or whatever, that would have covered that same ground. And so you need to tap into that experience. And like I say, Joe was pulled in, this guy who'd worked on Geico the previous year on that campaign. And he just talked through like his whole experience and what he had done, because we kind of hit a brick wall. We really couldn't crack it ourselves. And it was him saying, listen, we've got this idea. We kind of liked it. It didn't seem to go anywhere, and we went in another direction, but we thought it was interesting. And it was like this kernel of an idea that he'd done a year ago that was taken by our team. And then we kind of built on top of it and around it and worked out how we could bring it to life, doing a shoot in a very small studio in Bushwick, in Brooklyn, where, we could make the client's money go a long way. And the clients loved it. It worked really well for them. And, Sammy's drilled into me that like always talk about results. The tax spa videos for like, I think the week of launch were the most watched videos on Vice, full stop. So, they're basically being shared. They'd launched just as tax season was kicking off. They were super useful. And people who, especially, young kids who are like freelancers or had their own small business, were like firing it around their friends, because it was the easiest way for them. If they know how to do their taxes now, rather than explain it, it was like, just go and watch these videos because the videos taught me. So that kind of, the term viral is often overused, but that kind of like organic spread of the content, if it's useful for one person, they'll share it with others, was, a real example there. People love Cocainomics, and they shared it because it was great entertainment, with a little bit of education of what was coming in the show. Whereas this was very hands-on and enabled people to basically, get more money back from their taxes and file on time. So that was important. I want to move on to the next example, because that was Vice. I worked there for 16 months, and and then they sacked me.
So David, just to address you about timing. So once you finish with this, then we can get into some Q&As. You tease out some of the nuggets, then we get to also hear from our colleagues and David Lennon.
Yeah, cool. So as we were saying, like Vice sacked me, they had a big kind of downsizing globally, and I was part of that. But I've been speaking to two companies, and one of them was Fortune. The other was a really well-respected brand. And at this point in my career, which was like, only 3 years ago, I was wondering whether, it was time to kind of step away from media companies and branded content and maybe go client side and take everything I'd learned and take it to a client. And a couple of clients over the years have tried to hire me to do this, but I love the thrill of working on lots of different projects at the same time with different clients, different responsibilities, different executions, different needs. And that kind of keeps me happy and stops me getting bored. But I had the opportunity to go and work in an incredible company with an incredible team. But I think, honestly, like the fact that I got fired from Vice meant that like I didn't want to go out on a low. It's the first time I've been fired, amazingly. And so Fortune had this really unique opportunity. They'd been bought out. They were always part of the Time empire. Recently, they had like 5 owners in the previous 5 years, and they'd ended up at Meredith, which is a huge magazine empire in the US and beyond. and Fortune magazine was part of that, and it was put up for sale because they didn't want to have any business titles, and so Time was sold off, Sports Illustrated was sold off, and Fortune was sold off, and it was bought by a Thai businessman, Chat, who had read Fortune magazine when he was in university, had a real affinity for it and the stories that they told about the kind of the progress of business in America and around the world. And it was back in that B2B space, which I knew the best. And I'd realized while I was at Vice was really like, you know, people talk about having a passion. Well, I think I would have laughed at you at the start of my career, but I think, you know, that's what my passion really is. It's enabling businesses and clients to tell their stories. And so people always talk about taking the audience on a journey when you tell a story. They never really talk about how you're taking your own team and yourself and your clients on a journey as well. And I've really enjoyed, and some of the best client partners I've had in my career, from Delta Airlines to MetLife, to G Capital, and now to companies like Zurich and BCG and others. It's when you can work with a client who wants something, who's got a message to put out there, and then you can slowly coerce them to kind of take steps that they weren't thinking about. And that's basically what we managed to do with Zurich, which was our first big client, who just before the pandemic had approached our sales team, and they had issues. They needed to create a new TV commercial. They were also interested in branded content, but it was all expensive and they didn't know what to do with their budgets. And because obviously I had the background in doing TV commercials at Bloomberg, our CRO, Mike Schneider, who's great, threw me right in and said, we've got this new guy, Dave, who's running Fortune Brand Studio. I want you to meet with him. He can make a TV commercial for you. And that's what we did. They sponsor Zurich Golf Ambassadors, and they like to focus on the golfer and caddy relationship because they see that as a kind of example of how they do business with their clients. They're like the caddy that can help their clients, you know, find the path forward, you know, avoid risks and get to where they need to be. And so they tasked us to help them come up with a TV commercial. And that's what we did. We met with the clients. We started to build out this great relationship. And I'll just play you this 30 seconds. It's a 30-second commercial that we made for them in 2020, filmed in the Bahamas.
As a professional golfer, you're constantly working on improvements to your game and minimizing risk. The world of business operates the same way. In golf, we have a caddy for guidance. In business, 90% of the Fortune 500 turn to Zurich Insurance. To be successful, you have to be prepared for every eventuality. That's why you keep the best people by your side, so you can focus on what you do best.
And then we also shot a branded content campaign, which I'm going to play in the background quietly, with 3 of their golf ambassadors, one being Justin Rose, who was in the TV commercial, and then Colin Morikawa and JJ is caddy here, who was their youngest professional that they were sponsoring, who just won his first tournament. And for the branded content videos, we basically went out to different golf courses in Bahamas, and this is in Las Vegas, where we interviewed the golfers about, you know, the challenges they face and how, you know, they work with their caddy to get where they need to be. We also included in this storytelling the Zurich executives talking about the Zurich's services, what they provide to their customers, and how they look at risk and what they do with their clients to mitigate risk. And so using the same camera crew, obviously, from filming the golfers to then go to Zurich's head office in Chicago, we were able to kind of tie these two videos together. I just want to stop on this shot. One of the things that we have to do is obviously make our money go a long way. And what I always wanted to do on the golf course was set up a track and put a camera on a track and get this beautiful 360 shot of the golfers, so that we could kind of see them talking together and see them from all sides. But we can't afford to do that. It's very expensive. Would it probably cost about 20 to 30K. By the time that we get the track involved, we have to replace turf potentially, and so on. So what we did instead was buy a ball of string and 10 pegs that you use to, peg tents into the ground. And you can just about see a very faint white line going around the golfers. And what we did was peg out this perfect circle in string that you can't quite see.
Yeah, David, you're not sharing. Did you mean to share?
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
When
I was
go,
actually going to say.
Yeah.
I apologize, guys. When I go full screen on this portfolio, it mustn't share. 1 second.
So.
Okay. So while you are sharing, okay,
yeah,
you can go ahead now. Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Did you see any of this video?
I did.
Okay.
I did too.
Okay. So yeah, this line here is string, and I'm actually in a golf cart riding around this perfect circle, making sure that the tire at the front stays dead on the string. And so we got this like beautiful, almost motion controlled shot of these golfers. But that's just like a way that, in a moment, for the price of a ball of string and 10 pegs, you can sometimes get a shot that would have, taken a whole day to plan with grounds people and leveling out a track and kind of cheat it. And so that was the 2020 campaign. We literally come off a plane back from Chicago, and a week later went into lockdown for the pandemic and had to work out how we edit remotely with the editors. They've done a great job. We were really happy with the campaign, and it won 5 Telly Awards, which is our first big award-winning campaign. And myself and Megan Gilbert, who's my partner in crime, the executive editorial director who done the interviews, along with the rest of the team at Fortune, our film crew at Casual Films, Brendan, who had actually filmed Cocainomics with me for Netflix, for Wall Street Journal, kind of all come together and created this whole experience. This is the site. Bear with me 1 second. This is the digital hub experience that we built. We had looping video over here that just played silently on the site. All of these tabs pop up. You could go in, click on any of the articles. They'd all start with videos that we'd shot either out in Chicago or on location with the golfers. And for this year's campaign, we put audio embeds in so you could click.
In September of 2019,
and hear audio clips from cutting room floor pieces of content that we didn't use for the videos themselves. We had pull quotes. We brought in infographics, and really kind of fleshed out this storytelling so that wherever people were in the story, they were surrounded visually with, the subject matter. Plus, we were always pushing people at the end to go on to the next piece of content and the next and the next. And then luckily, if I just go back to the homepage, Colin, who we'd filmed previously in Las Vegas, had won his first major tournament, a PC PJ Harding. And so we done a whole video with Colin just talking about the day of when he won his first major. Now, we couldn't film at that golf course location. We're filming all of this with a completely masked and COVID tested crew. And the only people that were on set that weren't wearing masks were JJ and Colin, the caddy and the golfer. Everyone else was masked. They were socially distanced. And it was, you know, a way for us to still deliver the same quality for the client, but working under pandemic conditions. Megan done the interview. She was sat in Brooklyn. She was on Zoom. That's who Colin's talking to, literally a laptop off camera.
Wow.
And we all watched in. So that was this year's Zurich campaign.
Wow.
And the results from that campaign, I'll finish on that, whether we have benchmarks that we have to hit for clients, whether that's video completion rates, whether that's time spent on page, whether it's the audience engagement with this content, click-through rates on banners. We vastly exceeded all expectations and also beat what we'd done in 2020. So our first major pandemic production, fully pandemic production, outperformed anything that we could do in person. So that was the final lesson, which is that we all talk about the pandemic and how it holds us back, but really you've just got to work smarter. And again, it's a whole team of people that's behind this that puts it together. It was an incredible amount of work. We know that now it costs 50% more to shoot pandemic videos than it did pre-pandemic, with all the different things you have to pay for. And it takes longer to do interviews and so on and so forth. But the storytelling that you can get can still be a super high level. So it really, it's easy to put limitations on yourselves. And we've certainly done that when we done that going into this project. But on the back of it, we were really pleasantly surprised that, you know, if you compare 2020's campaign and 2021, from design, from written editorial, from video, everything outperformed the year before. And so that's what we're about. And the clients have been incredible at Zurich.
Right.
Their belief in us really helped that come to fruition. So that's the next, you know, the three companies, Wall Street Journal, Vice, and Fortune, that I've worked at. And that's the type of storytelling that we do. So Sammy, passing it back to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you. I know people are behind their sets, so nobody can. We may not hear anybody clap, but that was a very interesting narration. You know, I picked down lots of notes that we can share, but because the meeting is not over, ladies and gentlemen, let me just. We will still go to the group discussions, and then we will come back. But before that, can I take just about 2 or 3 questions from this presentation for David? He spoke about how, his life itself is a story, how he's gone through a lot of journeys, a great journey to get to where he is. But eventually, Coconomics, he touched on 3 main campaigns, became a story that gripped the entire Netflix audiences and raked in over $70 million US. And that came as a result of certain, well, I have Yao's hand is up already. So please go ahead if you have a question or a contribution, and then I'll take another.
Thank you very much. Thank you, David, for that awesome presentation. Apologies, my lighting is quite bad, so I won't be able to use the video. But I like all the 3 stories that you talked about. What I want to know from you, though, especially for the Vice production using SPA to talk about filing tax returns, it sounds to me like they are 2 completely unrelated issues, right? But somehow you manage to tie it in. What's the risk with that? Because for a lot of us in corporate, we deal in one thing or the other, and we probably want to use some very complicated or weird concept to tell that story. What's the risk, and how did you measure that? And how did you become confident that this could actually do the trick?
Great, good to see you. So I think obviously it depends on the audience and what their appetite is and the spectrum that they'll accept and what they won't accept. But all I will say is that whether it's more B2C audience like the device audiences, or B2B, and very strict B2B finance, maybe some of the more esoteric tech companies, the one thing that we always tend to do, and I do this myself. Hello? Sorry, someone needs to go on mute. So the one thing that we all tend to do is think, well, we can only do this, or our clients will only accept that, or there's a limitation. And I think what I've developed with my teams over time is the ability to say, you know what, there's going to be some ideas that aren't quite right for this or might be too adventurous, but we should present a spectrum of ideas out to the client, and we should see where they will go, because sometimes you'll get surprised. My old, very good friend, lifelong friend, Jim Piercy, his forward summing up of great storytelling is 4 words, and it's be honest and be brave. And I think it's the brave part of it that applies to your question, in that, you can't just come out with something that is not going to sell through or is going to make a client unhappy, but you can put multiple options in front, and you can still do safer options and things that that they'll gravitate towards, but you can also step them out. And it goes back to what I was talking about before, where you take your clients on a journey, whether they're internal or external. And this time round, on this particular brief or this particular pitch, you might not get that storytelling through, but 6 months later, when they want more work from you, that will still be kind of ringing around their head. They'll come back to you, and you might have opened the door to something more interesting. And we've done that with Delta Airlines over 8 years. You can slowly build that relationship and take clients on that journey.
Yeah, I like what you say about the fact that sometimes it also depends on the taste of your audience, because there are somebody has to mute, please, James. James, kindly mute. So I mean, there are certain places that if you are done spa, it will not work. So storytelling always has to come from your audience's perspective, and not your perspective. Nana Boachi Yadom, he's in Morocco, he's Ghanaian. Nana, do you have a question for us? I see your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Sam. Just a question about 2 questions. One on measurements. You mentioned that you had smashed a lot of your targets with that campaign. Question is, which platforms or tools are you using to do these measurements? And are these platforms all paid for, giving the high level of what you're doing, or are you able to recommend some platforms that communications practitioners working with other companies that cannot pay for that kind of service use, if you have any? The other thing is on storytelling, and when you are in very technical, working in very technical areas. So I had previously worked with an agency that dealt with organizations that were in the pharmaceutical, right, and doing very scientific stuff. How do you cut through with storytelling working for such an organization?
Okay, so great questions. The first one takes me into deep water, because as everyone knows who I work with, I only work best with like a pad and a pen. I'm not technical. When it gets into like media reporting, I'm out my depth. But I can tell you what I know, Nana, which is that we have benchmarks, like industry, like news organization benchmarks that our account management team tap into. So we know the industry benchmark for like a piece of editorial or an editorial video. Then we can create our own benchmarks of what we see across all of our branded content, articles, sites, videos. And so we have an average there. And then how we know we've outperformed is whatever we do against those two benchmarks. Now we might, you know, we might outperform editorial benchmarks a lot, but only, you know, slightly increase on branded content benchmarks. But you tend to have an inkling of what you, of how great your storytelling is when you share the content with your team. And if they're coming back and they're excited and they're sharing it too, you know, you're onto a good thing. And so it's really, and it depends if you're not a media company and you haven't got them benchmarks, but you really need to start to talk to your colleagues in other companies and kind of, you know, go out and have beers or have dinner and kind of find out how they perform and what they see as success. And then you can create your own anecdotal benchmarks that you can go up against. But judging against your own performance is the quickest way to start there. So I'd suggest that, and just really going in and seeing how much engagement you have. The actual platforms that we use for that, I can't really tell you. That's a question for another department. They just give us the results. In terms of the difficult storytelling and technical storytelling, the one thing that we've found that really helps is if you've got a very dense, very technical story, then you need to really bring out the character of the people or persons that are involved in it. And so rather than having one narrator who, you know, from a company that tells that story and it can get monotonous, trying to involve as many people as that can have. So let's say it's a scientific client and it's all about stuff that goes on in test tubes, and it's very hard to capture that in video and really explain through, you know, chemically, biologically, what they do and what's different in their industry. But what you could do is go through that group of people from the top, from the CEO and the C-suite, all the way through the managers to like the people, like the actual workers, the people that are holding the test tubes or who are operating the machinery or who are putting the bricks up on the wall, like all the way down to the bottom of the company, and have everyone give different perspectives on this story. And that way you're taking it from macro storytelling and kind of industry speak or business speak, all the way down to very practical use cases of either, you know, a person on the front lines in that company or a client or a customer or an industry expert outside. And so, you know, if the story is super technical, we always tend to go and focus on the humans behind that technical story and try and bring their personality out. And for instance, in a video, you might not just keep it in the workspace. You might film them outside, at home, eating dinner with their family, giving you a set of B-roll footage to work with, that if you haven't got B-roll footage that can actually show the chemical reaction that they do because it happens behind closed doors, then you've at least got the people within the story and their characters come through. So that can be a storytelling hook you can use. Hope that helps.
Great. I like what you say. If the story is very technical, go behind the people, go behind to the people who have the story and bring them forward. So stories are always people-centered. And when people lead the story, it's easy for other people to connect. Thanks, Dave. I know there are a lot of questions people have, but we need to get out into the breakout session. Graciously, David says it's going to be around. So afterwards, come back. And then we will take any questions that people might have. So I don't know whether the team, Ivy, are you going to project the panel? Let me thank you, David. That was a very great, you know, storyline and great presentation. And also, so thank you. And you're going to be here for us to go in, discuss, and then we will come back, right? I want to say to everybody that we are live. We are not showing live, but we are having a live tweet. So all the nuggets that are coming from David and all of us are being tweeted really live. So you're going to have them. Now, as we go to the breakout sessions, first of all, we are going to break you up into the groups that you found yourself when, in the WhatsApp groups, right? So you're going to be with everybody there. So kindly rename yourself to be assigned to your group. So like we have it here, Samuel, I'm from Ghana. I'm in group 1 or group 3, which is G3, or SL, Kenya, G4. Then we are going to break you. We'll do that break up here. Ivy, I think that is blurred. So we do the breakout session. Now, when you go, your assignment will be for you to choose a leader. So somebody may have to own up to be the leader to drive, or our team members will be on the various groups, but there has to be somebody to lead the conversation. And then I did put the case studies on the various WhatsApp.
Sammy, we can't hear you.
Hi, Sammy.
So, well, Ivy, I think Sammy is having a challenge.
I think he may have gone off. Let me just take the
Yes.
time.
But that's fine, Ivy. If you can hear me, just go ahead and put us in a breakout session rooms, and I'm sure you will share the case study with us, and then people can start working. When Sammy gets back, we will continue the process, and then when we come back, we can wrap up.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Yao. I just want to re-emphasize, I'm not able to put you in a group if you do not rename yourself. So kindly rename yourself, like the first one says, just your first name, your country, and then G1 or G2. You know your group number based on the WhatsApp group you were initially assigned to. So it has the group number there, and then I will just assign you. Also, I'll be sending messages at 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and 1 minute. When it's left with 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and 1 minute, after which will be sent back to the meeting room. If you want your case study, to the WhatsApp groups. But I also
so Ivy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So before we go, I did share the case study, but let me just run through it for us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that a good story has to have an emotional connection. And a good story, you need a messenger for the story, somebody you can weave the message around, people can relate to and accept the message. A good story, you need to have an overarching message, the message that you are sharing. So our case study, essentially, all of us here are from organizations that have websites. And one of the very important places on every website that we visit is the About Us page. That is the best place to tell the story of your company. But most of the time, we go and dump facts and figures there. This company was established in 1910 by Mr. Susu, and so we have an annual turnover of this. We have employees, 5,000, you have this. But it's a story that talks about a person who was hired as a comms group manager for an oil and gas company in the upstream sector in Kenya. Now, that person got into the company that had over 5,000 people. There were impact stories of people in the communities who have benefited from scholarships, from employment. It has also an investor who had heard of the impact story of one of the beneficiaries and had actually phoned or sent a message to the CEO to say that I am really happy about what is happening and the value that you are creating for the people. So I'm going to go ahead and keep investing in this company. Now, the CEO, when you had your first meeting, was quite worried because despite all the good things they believe that they are doing, the company is doing, there are very bad reports in the media. Government officials and influencers believe that they are not giving back as much to the country as they are supposed to. People are talking about resource nationalization. They should give back the resources to the nationals instead of all these multinationals. And your CEO believes that your website, it almost looks like a poster. So go back and revamp it so that the people who come in the company or who go on your website and read can have some kind of emotional connection, can have a lasting good impression about the company. So your task for this breakout session is to use the About Us page to tell the story. In telling this story, we are not saying you should go and write a story, you don't have the time, but we want you to discuss of the characters in the story that you are going to read, who should tell the story? Who should be the one that you should weave the narrative around? Number two, what should be your message? There are so many messages in there. You get messages about impact stories. You have an investor talking about them. You have the company, employing over 5,000 people. You have, being a great contributor to the economic development of the host economy. What should be the central theme that will leave lasting impressions in the minds of people? Then number three, if you have the message and you have the messenger, how do you create emotional connection with the people who are going to read the About Us page on your website? So it's going to be an interesting discussion. You are not supposed to rewrite the story, but tell us who should be the what should be the message and why. Discuss that. Tell us who the message should be woven around, who is the messenger, and then you tell us, how you are going to create emotional connection. Please note these points down. When we come back, one person from each group will then take out these nuggets that you were able to tease out from that presentation and then speak to it. That's our way of learning from this. So we will give you, we are way behind time, but I think that we can give you some 20 minutes to do this. When you come back, we spend some 10 minutes. Then you fill a survey for us, and we can close. But I see this to be an exciting exercise. When you go, everybody's going to be sitting around the table, but the team would have to have a leader. Either the leader emerges or there is a consensus out of which somebody would be the leader to moderate the conversation. To find this, please, everybody kindly go into the WhatsApp group. I shared it earlier. And then, open it and read and discuss. So I don't know, please, do I have any question? Do I have any question?
No, not at all. I think time is fast spent, so we need to get moving into our groups now, please.
Okay, so Ivy, if you can hear me, please let's break into our various groups. Thank you. And we see all of you soon.
Hi, please, if you are still here, then it's because you haven't renamed yourself. Kindly rename yourself and I'll send you to your group. So just add your group number and then I'll send you to your group. Hi again, James, Joel, and Constance. So if you just kindly, James, okay. So if you could kindly rename yourself, I'll just send you to your group. James and Constance and Francis. David, is that a group you would want to go to? James, kindly rename yourself.
You can send me wherever you want.
Okay, maybe. So I'll send you to group 1. After a while, if you want to try another group, then I'll send you to another group. You just come back and I'll send you to another group.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Hi, this is James.
Yes, hi, James. Hi, James, I can hear you. Hi, James.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to rename you because we need you to rename yourself. So I've done that, so I'm sending it to your group.
All right.
Hi, Francis. If you can tell me, kindly rename yourself so I can send it to your group. Francis, I do not know the group you were assigned to, so if you could also let me know, then I'll send it to your group. So Francis, you're in group 4, so I'm renaming you and sending you to your group. Yes, you've been assigned. Sammy? Sammy?
Hi, Ivy.
Group 2 people are just a little. Group 1 is a lot. So anybody else who comes, I'll probably send a person to group 2 or
Okay.
any other group. Yeah, group 1 is a lot. They are a lot.
Okay, so I would have to go to one of the groups.
Which group should I
How do
send?
oh, I just want to keep moving from group to group.
Okay.
So you can put me in one of the groups now, please.
Okay. Hi, Echo. Hi, Echo, Jeffrey, Ishmael, Margaret. If you guys want to join a group, just let me know so I'll assign you. Hey, Echo, you have to send a message. The network is bad.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, just tell me what group you want to go to. If you want to go to a group, and I will send you to a group.
What group did you say didn't have so many people?
Hi, Kenneth. What group were you assigned to? Kindly rename yourself, and I'll send you to your group.
Sure, Ivy. I think this should be my group.
Pardon?
I think this should be my group, but I'm checking.
No. This is the open group. This is not your group. This is the open group.
Oh, okay. Then let me check
Just
and
once you
confirm.
rename, then I'll know which group and send you.
All right, sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Margaret, come and rename them. Come and send them to them. Yes, Sammy. Yeah.
Please go from room to room to be taking screenshots and forget.
I'm going up. Esther is calling me. I'll be back. All right. Okay, so rename them.
Ivy. Ivy.
I'm here. Ivy stood up a bit.
Okay, so I'm supposed to be in group 3.
Okay. The chat session.
Hi, Richard. Could you let me know what group you were assigned to in the WhatsApp group so that I send you to that group for your discussions? Hi, Kenneth, if you can hear me, if you haven't joined your group, it's because you have not accepted to join your group. So kindly accept it. Also, Kenneth Adium, kindly accept, Francis, kindly accept to join the group you've been assigned to. Also, Constance, group 1, kindly accept to join. Okay, Constance has joined. So Francis, kindly accept to join the group you are in. Yeah. Ishmael, Margaret, Nasiba, Richard, kindly let me know the group you're supposed to be in, and then I'll send you. Ishmael, Nasiba, you're a co-host, so you can join any group you want to go to. Also, if you go, kindly take a screenshot or something, okay, so that we know what's up there.
Hi, Ivy. I'm still here. Hello, Ivy. Hello. 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 Cindy.
The company, they can actually tell the story better.
Okay, I think we should put the spotlight on the lady who's an orphan and had a scholarship to go to medical school. Since we're supposed to create an emotional connection, I think when someone hears such a story and how Multigas came in to help her, because if she didn't get that scholarship, trust me, she would maybe be a teenage mother or just be something else. But now through Multigas, she's realized her dreams, and she's not the skill she's gotten in medicine would definitely impact society at large. So I think that lady should be like the best person to tell the story of Multigas. That's my opinion.
Right. So I would want to add that I think that we shouldn't leave it for only the lady who has benefited from that. It should be a combination. It should be a rep from Multigas, and then those who have benefited from their social investment projects. Why do I say that? When we are telling a story, are we just going to project only an aspect of the people it benefits? Remember the purpose is towards creating a shared prosperity. So once Multigas is benefiting, society or constituents of society are also benefiting. So if we are projecting how Multigas activities have benefited constituents, then don't you think that we should get somebody from Multigas, maybe probably the CEO or the heads of comms, to add credibility to it and say that, in fact, we are doing all of these things because it aligns to our purpose or it aligns to our vision, and we are committed to pursuing or attaining that vision. So that's my opinion.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
you are right
I think
in what you are saying. Okay,
hello.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think
Go ahead.
I agree. I think I agree with your point, but you see, when it comes to credibility, I feel like the beneficiaries can also add when it comes to credibility, so that it's not just the people on the leadership position talking of, oh, we have done this, we have done that, but in real sense, the people are not actually seeing it on the About Us page. So I feel like when it from it and mm, most probably if maybe their contacts and all that are added, it actually adds more credibility than just leaving it to the actual leaders only on top.
Okay, so I'm not saying we should just leave it to the leadership of the company. What I'm saying is that in addition to people who have benefited from Multigas social investment projects, we should sort of have a rep or something from the company. All right, it shouldn't be left with only the beneficiaries, but a rep from the company to affirm it, just to present the view of the company.
Yes, that is it.
Okay, I get it.
Yes, I feel every organization has I don't know, is it an online editor or let's say a PR? The person is supposed to at least update whatever the company does or whatever happens in the organization. So I think it's a collective responsibility, as you rightly said. It shouldn't only be the lady who benefited to become a medical doctor, but I think yes, the communicators of the organization should also be involved to be able to at least communicate it and portray everything properly. Yeah, so that is my opinion.
All right, so let's go to the other story. So it says that, the other question, how would you establish an emotional connection through the above narrative with your audiences? And the last one is, please explain the rationale for your approach. So for me, my approach for it would be, one, you start off with stating that what the problem is. I mean, in our daily plans and reports, we start off with the background and then the situation analysis, right? So for me, I think that if I'm doing a story, I'm telling a story about something, preferably a video story, I'll start off with what the problem is. I mean, if you read this, the case study, it talks about people, I mean, the real issues in the society, right? So we'll start off from there, and then we introduce what Multigas stands for, its purpose, and then its vision and all that. Then we introduce what Multigas is doing in the society. Then we end with what the impact the activities have had on constituents, on society. So that's the sequence of how I would have approached it.
Okay, I think for me, I would have approached it in the reverse order because, when, for instance, if you're doing something like a video, in the first 30 seconds of, like, the attention span is very short. So if you are just talking about problems, okay, and so what's like, okay, problems and so what. So I think for instance, if the lady who is now the medical doctor is telling her story about Multigas, and she quickly summarizes the fact that Multigas came in to help her. Now she's a doctor and she's improving the health status of the society. For me, I think that will grasp the attention of anybody watching. Like, okay, so how did that really come about? How did she even find Multigas? Then someone will be asking, so what's Multigas? Okay, we know it's gas, but maybe what did they really do? So I think grasping the attention of people within the shortest possible time will be, for me, I think it's a better way to approach it, like to get people's to know what, like to inquire about what Multigas does. Thank you.
Okay, I agree with you.
Well, I think what my lady said is fine, but I think in any particular do I have to say a write up or whatever you'd want to present? I think there should be more of like do I have to say a survey or something? How come they decided to, the company decided to invest in people? How did they really know that the people were suffering or something? I think there could be more of like a little survey to find out what was really happening. Then that brings us to what my guy Riley said. I've forgotten the name, sorry. To the problems, you know. Then possibly to the intervention of the organization. That is the solutions, as he said. Then I don't know. What you do in an organization, you also face challenges. At least for the people to also know that you are working all right, but we also have certain challenges. I think that is my opinion. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Okay, all right. So, Sammy, I don't know if you can hear us. I think we are done with our session. Hello, Sammy.
I think the
So
breakout
I
sessions, I think the sessions were
so
timed. So
So we are supposed to be ending this whole webinar by 8 p.m. GMT. It's 8:03 GMT. So I don't know.
Yeah, hello. But I think within the first question on who should tell the story, I don't know, but I feel like we didn't conclude on.
yes, I think we would go by what Apia said. Um, he said the authorities of the organization and the lady who benefited to from their intervention to become a medical doctor. Or
yes. So in this case, it will be a collective responsibility.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Hello, Apia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So, are you going to present on our behalf?
Jennifer, why don't you do that? Coincidentally, I have another clubhouse session which starts at 8, so I'll be joining them soon. So
Wow. Okay.
Okay,
But
so
I
Jennifer,
realized,
can you do it for us?
okay, I don't have a problem, but from what we've been discussing, it looks like we are just sharing opinions. We're not really concluding on anything. So it's I'm a bit, I don't know whose
Yeah,
opinion
I
to
really
choose.
came up with
Yes.
Apia would have been the right person because I think he had solid points that he put across, but I don't know why.
all right, so let's go over them again and then agree on them, right?
Exactly. Okay.
All right, so we are saying that the message from the above narrative, what should be the central focus of your about us page? No, let me read the whole preamble. It said, you want to use a story to make the company's about us page more exciting and establish an emotional connection with visitors of your website. Your story must be centered on the following pillars: the message, the messenger, the connection. You are required to work as a team to discuss the following. A, the message. from the above narrative, what should be the central focus of your About Us page? For me, I think what I mentioned earlier on, if I recall, is the fact that we should, the central narrative should be the purpose of the organization, which is to create value and improve lives through shared prosperity. The reason I suggest that is that you can have a representation of what they are doing for society in there, and even the progress of the company. That is, I mean, making profits, because it's shared value and then prosperity. So prosperity, the prosperity of the company is when they are able to stay in business and make profit. But the prosperity in society is when the activities of the company is having greater impact on society. So I am of the view that it should be this, the narrative should center on the purpose of the organization.
Okay.
Are we all aligned?
Yes, I agree.
Abiku?
Yes,
Jennifer?
yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Yes. Yeah.
You agree? We all agree.
Yeah.
All right. So B is the messenger. Who is best placed to tell the company's story? Whose identity will drive the story better? Okay, so the question is, who is best placed to tell the company's story? Who is best placed to tell the company's story? Whose identity will drive the story better? Let's look at the keywords. Who is best placed to tell the company's story? Whose identity will drive the story better? So we are talking about identity here, and who is best placed to tell the company's story? I think in my earlier submission, I was of the view that it should be the beneficiaries and then probably a rep from the company, the CEO or the head of comms. I don't know if there is any different opinion.
Me, I think the beneficiaries, and of all the beneficiaries, I think the lady who is now the medical doctor.
Only
High
her?
right. No, not only her, but maybe if it's in an order of hierarchy, I think I'll put her first before the family. You know, they said they had one that has about 10 dependents. Let me see. That was, Bakari. So in order of hierarchy, I will put Anissa first, then Bakari. Oh, there are two of them. Yeah, I think there are two of them, since they're the only two beneficiaries.
All right, so and then how about it? Would you have a company rep in there? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Personally, okay.
Maybe. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sure I've spoken. Maybe provide some technical information to it, but I think the beneficiaries.
All right, so let's move on to C. How would you establish an emotional connection?
Sorry. So what have we agreed on? Because personally, I was going for the idea of it being a collective responsibility, so that we have the aspects of credibility in both cases. We have both the company representatives and at least one beneficiary in the mix, if not all, so that we have that balance. So I don't know. What was your idea on it?
Yes, I think what you are saying is okay. There should be a rep from the company and a beneficiary. That's how it should be.
But it says who is best. So I think who is best, maybe, well, I think who is best means one of all the lots, who among the lots is the best person to tell the story?
You go for a medical doctor.
I'm a bit, please come again. I didn't hear you well.
Yes, I think you were saying who best.
Yes, because that's what the question says.
So you said saying who is best means one person, and I think I said if that is how it should be, then I would go for the medical doctor.
Okay, Candy, do you agree? Hey, 23 seconds. Wow.
Yeah, anyway, I think we can as well go with that.
Anissa.
Even though, so long as the person will be talking about it, will give the rationale behind that idea, why the medical doctor and not the other one, the other beneficiary.
Hey, Sammy.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. I think some of our friends are still joining. Let's see. Yes, I can see.
Most of us are here actually, about 33 of us.
Yes. All right. So we'll just start. We've gone past our time, but I hope that we had a great discussion. So without much ado, we just go to group one. Who is going to speak for group one? We had an assignment to just give a human touch and a connection to our About Us page on our website, telling us what the message is, who the messenger should be, and how you emotionally connect to our audiences. So please, who is speaking for group one?
Was that group one?
Marisa gonna speak for us? Or do I go?
She said, "You, Kwame."
There are two Kwames in that group. Is it the Kwame from Ghana or the one from Ivory Coast?
Yeah, I think Kwame from Ghana can.
All right, so let me try and get and then give
Sorry,
this a shot.
yes, Kwame from Ghana, you can go. Okay.
These are cool. All right, so first off, the message hinges around something like where the mind cannot grow without you. You grow with us together. Something along those lines. Reason being that we need to have the people appreciate the fact that the mind being present in that area needs them to move along, to grow, and all of those things. So the mind's growth is tied to the growth and otherwise of the community. Secondly, we figure that the two of our star storytellers will be the new doctor and the man with 10 dependents, including his elderly uncle. And maybe a third one could be that a third person will be the hook, if you like. And that could be possibly a local who is of the highest rank in management as far as the mind is concerned. Reason being that you want to have the case where people who are directly involved in the community and who are also working for the mind to tell these stories, because really, they're actually true stories. True story of a young person who got orphaned, but who prior to that was living in the community before being adopted elsewhere. And so they're telling the story about the fact, look, I lost my parents. I was in a bad place. These guys came here, and through that, I'm now becoming the first doctor that we have in this area. I have 10 people in my family. How could I possibly done this without any of the support coming through? And we think also that all of these people should be people who are known to be indigents of that area. Largely because, yes, of course, many companies have got systems where once you are a native, you are given some kind of professional treatment when it comes to job opportunities. But then they could have a native who is not known in the locality because maybe they grew up elsewhere, and so they're not known there. Their family members are also not known. But these are people who we believe that once they grew up in that area, will be known. And many communities are often small communities. Everyone knows that this is Kofi Pape's house, this is Ahmed's house, this is Moare's house. So they know these connections, and then they're able to be linked better with the area. And again, what's the third one, Sammy? Just remind me. I'm losing track of my thoughts. The third one.
Yeah, you are a miner through and through. So, but the company was an oil and gas company. But you've done so much mining. So mining. So
Not so
yeah,
much
Kwame, the
mining.
third one was, how do you connect emotionally with
So-
this one? Your message and your messenger. How do you then connect emotionally with the people?
So it's about the fact that you need to have that link where the person is telling the story of where they would have been had it not been for the fact that the mine was there. About the fact that they are in gainful employment now because of the mine and because of what because of the company has done for them. Without them, they may have been in a bad place, but through that, it's happened. Now, the reason being that you don't have a case where you're not being seen as using quote unquote model to tell your story. I mean, it's like you don't have a case where people think that, okay, these guys have been paid to do this job. But then if there are locals who are known within the community, it becomes easier to find their story. And of course, quite often, the stories actually be known by the people in the area. You know, by the fact that you lost your parents. It's just you in a family having gainful employment with 10 people under you. So that story, that connection is such that once you are able to have them tell the story in their own way, and this could mean, for example, shooting these videos or these stories from where, or describing it from where they live, where they've always lived, and where they are now. The fact that, yes, this is the family that lives around the big baobab tree on the way to the riverside. And everybody knows where the baobab tree is, where the riverside is. So once this connection has been drawn and these stories are being told by these same people, it resonates a bit more with the locals and it's a lot more believable to accept than when a model or people who have such distant connection with the area are involved in the production. I believe I covered that, Maurice and the team.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kwame. So does anybody have anything to say? What I picked from what Kwame is saying is that, especially the emotional connection bit, the story has to be authentic, right? So if the story is authentic, it's easy for people to believe and it's easy for them to connect. If people cannot connect to your story, it's difficult for them to accept it. So I think that was some brilliant work that they did. Anybody else with something to say before we move on to group 2?
There was one thing we were talking about right at the end as well, which is not being scared to address some of the conflicts and to not hide away from the challenge and the other side's opinions of whatever the story is. And actually, if you're more upfront about that in your storytelling, people will listen to your side of the story. If you completely ignore it, and if you're just trying to tell this great story, then it seems like it's a smokescreen, like someone said on the call. But if we address it up front, and if people are honest about it, it goes into that be honest, be brave, right? You can really at least present another side of the story, and then people can take from it what they want.
Brilliant. So sometimes we are tempted to just go and tell the juicy part of our company's story, but people sometimes connect to you more when you are honest upfront. This is the problem we have. And yeah, so I think group 1, brilliant job. Thank you so much. Let's move to group 2. Who is speaking for group 2?
Hello, Sammy. So Jennifer
Hi,
will be speaking
Jennifer.
for group 2.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. All right. So for the first question, what should be the central focus of your About Us page? So we decided that we are going to really focus on the purpose of the organization, which is to create value and improve lives through shared prosperity. Then we explain how we are creating value, but most importantly, improving the lives of the people through shared prosperity. That's through the profits that Multigas makes every year. So with this, we believe that the best person, order of hierarchy, to tell our story will be Anissa, followed by what's his name? Bakari, then a staff of Multigas. So Anissa, because we realized in the case study, an investor shared a story, Mr. Cho, who shared the successes of Anissa and Bakari and others during an AGM, sees value in his investment. And we know how education is very dear to people, especially girl child education. And the fact that Anissa was an orphan who is now a medical doctor, like she's going to bring a lot of impact to her society, improve the health status of her fellow people in her village or town. So we believe that once Anissa's story is put very well, crafted so well and put out there, trust me, we're going to get lots of people investing into Multigas because they also want to feel that they are helping someone out there to become better people and at the end of the day, eradicate poverty and achieve the sustainable development goals and make the world a better place.
So that's their message. And so you were
Then
saying that the
Bakari,
central
then
message
the
has to be
staff
on the
that
impact that you are making
yes,
in the lives of the people. Okay, not so far
yes.
from group one. All right. So now
Okay,
let's
the last.
continue. Yeah,
Okay, so the
messenger.
the emotional
Sorry.
connection. Okay, so we believe when we want an emotional connection of we wouldn't want to create we don't want to say sympathy, but it's one that I'm just looking for the best word to describe it, but you see these people every time and you're wondering how can I best help this person. But when you realize that Multigas is helping these people through their work, and you know that when you put your money into Multigas, they're going to touch these people's life, then you know that okay, then I can easily impact their lives when I invest in Multigas. And that's what Multigas wants, right? To get more investors. So that's the kind of emotional connection we want to create. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. But team, what do we have to say to them? Does anybody have a question or a contribution? Because what I picked from group one was that emotional connection has to be something that people can identify with. And it has to be authentic and believable. So yeah.
I think, Sammy, just to follow that, there was a big thing maybe 5 or 6 years ago in the US where people would build their careers around like really emotional storytelling, and it got very formulaic, and it was the same pieces of music with like slow strings, and it was shot in a certain way, and it was people talking about their hardships. And I think there's other ways to tell a story of challenges that people face, and it's to really show their dignity on camera and show no matter what they've been through, like they're ready to stand up. And so it's really in a presentation. I think what Jennifer was talking about there, it's really in how you present that story. And you can go down the well-worn kind of heartstring style storytelling, but we've always found that if you bring people's dignity to the fore throughout, you don't need people to break down on camera. You don't need people to give you this, mournful 60 seconds of how hard their life was. You can go the other way and you can talk about where they are now and how they got there, and they can reference their past.
Right.
It doesn't need to focus on the sorrow aspect of it, and it can be more about the motivations they had to kind of rise up from whatever situation they were in. So dignity is a thing that we focus on in times like this, where it's not to
awesome,
make
brilliant.
And Sammy, just to add up to what David I just said, one of the
Yes,
challenges
KG.
that we see often is the fact that there was a time in Ghana when the telcos were so much into changing people's lives and then showing it on TV. I also had a program called Touching Lives, I think
Right.
MTN has another one by the name. And the common theme with these was to show the beneficiaries in their most vulnerable state.
Right.
Initially it caught on a bit because there's that sorrowful emotional connection. But after a while, we felt we in the sense that
Yeah, at the time you were the manager over there, I remember. Yeah.
we felt we're belaboring the point a bit. We're taking advantage of these people's vulnerabilities, and that was not too cool. And as David has said, sometimes it's important to look at the nice parts of the bad parts to show. It doesn't mean it's not a bad story. I mean, they're not in some bad conditions, but the way you tell that story makes you not lose your audience. Because once
Right.
your audience think that you are using these vulnerable people to make money, then you've lost it.
Brilliant point you make there. Brilliant. Because sometimes the grass to grace story, it's like, but for us, your life would have been a misery.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I love that. So, I mean, if the person is a doctor, you can talk about how this gentleman has become a doctor, the first of his kind in the community, and is impacting several other people. He's a hero. He's doing well. Then, so I think it's a very great perspective. I am picking this and obviously adding it to what I have. Thank you. So we go to group 3, but before that, I'll just plead with you, Ivy, if you're here, we have just a little survey so that while they are presenting, you can fill it for us. It's the only way we can make this program better next time. We had network connections in the early, we expected about 70 people, and a lot of people were having issues and they were chatting in the WhatsApp group, they couldn't enter. We resolved that later. So some of these challenges we would want to know, your suggestions and how we can better the program. So Ivy, kindly drop the link. It's on Google Docs, a very, very simple thing, 2-3 minutes, you are done. Drop the link in the chat box and please click on it, we beg you, and fill it for us briefly while group 3 goes on. So group 3, please take it over. Who is speaking for group 3, please?
Jifa.
Okay, Jifa, please go ahead.
Okay, so for group 3, we're looking at it this way. For the About Us page, the message should not only focus on the impact because it's a business. So what do they do as well? And whilst we are telling people what they do, it should be in a simplified form. It should be simple enough for people to understand and be able to connect. And then we should also include the fact that we should look at what sets them apart. The fact that they pay their taxes and contribute in various ways. And then it should also include a section on the impact, which we're talking about, like the doctor and the fact that people are being, like they are employing people in the community as well. So the message should include different like sections and the About Us and not focus only on the impact. And for the emotional appeal, for that one, we should find a way of the impact stories for the doctor and the fact that employees are able to take care of their families because they are working in the organizations. Like those impact stories will really connect to people emotionally. So those are some of the things we're discussing.
Okay, so it's great we are all talking about the impact stories, and I know the other groups will come in, but it's a company that is also a very huge contributor to the socioeconomic development of Kenya. Is that not something we should be looking at as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right, team, does anybody
that's
have?
I was talking about the tax, what sets them apart. Like they pay their taxes and all that. They are contributing in various ways.
Okay,
So
we
the
see if
focus should
anybody
also be
has.
on-
Awesome,
Okay.
brilliant. Thank you. Does anybody have anything to say to group 3? All right, so we move on to group 4. Nana Boachi, are you speaking? Because I saw your picture pop up.
Yeah, I'll go.
Please
So
go
I
ahead.
was in a group with Ethel, Nanaba, Faith, Gifty, Ajwa. Let me see anybody. I think I've missed one person, but it's fine. So I'll probably start on a bit of a controversial note with what you said for your last point about taxes. It is true. I mean, you have to let people know that you're paying taxes, but in our view, based on what some of the discussions we had, paying taxes really is something you have to do anyways. You know what I mean? As a company that is earning so much, you have to pay your tax. So we do not feel that it's one of the biggest key messages that you will be hammering. You may say it tacitly in some of your communication, but it's not based on our conversation. It wasn't something that we thought we should bring to the fore. However, the group was very they were unanimous in the fact that we have to be bolder with our About Us page, because typically or traditionally, the About Us page is very straightforward, simple, because the person has to just read what you do and go away. But the group believes that we have to be a bit bolder and innovative. So it should include audiovisuals. So it can be a mixture of audiovisuals and text, where you have images, videos, infographics, to come together as what you would typically see on an About Us page compared to what the tradition really is. That's the first point. The other thing,
I have a question for you before you go. Please hold your thought there. So the thing about taxes, if the government, your key stakeholder, is saying that you are not contributing much, shouldn't you prove that with the taxes you have paid?
So it depends. You see, it depends. The government knows you're paying taxes to them, right? With an organization like an oil and gas company, mining companies, they pay huge taxes. There's absolutely no way that government will miss it, right? So it depends on where the noises are coming from. If it is the MP for the area who definitely is not seeing the tax because it doesn't go to him, then your mode of communication to him will change, where you are using these powerful stories, to one, because you don't have to forget about your target audiences, right? So that MP, for instance, could be one of your target audiences in terms of using these stories, and share to the community. So that would be one. So that's what I would say. That would be my response to, the taxes issue and government and who cares about whether you are paying taxes.
Sorry, Nana, can I just step in there?
Right.
Yes, Gifty, please.
Yes, because I mean, but using the audiovisual and using all the other mediums we talked about on the website, we also talked about still representing the taxes paid, the magnitude of the taxes paid through the same medium.
Okay,
yeah, so
brilliant.
I think what it is saying is that it's not that we will totally ignore it, but it's not.
It won't be the focus.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. All right.
And I also not. So moving on, I won't belabor the points on what the first three groups have said. It was clear that our messenger would definitely be Bakari and Anissa, because one, it shows authenticity. Because Abakari is from the community, they all know, they can see, right? And these are the things that you want to show from storytelling. It's also aspirational. So somebody like Anissa, she giving where she came from. So it's not about, like Kwame Jan said, you're not playing too much on the sad part of the emotions, but it's aspirational. You're giving people hope, people in the community hope that they can actually become like Anissa, which we believe is powerful, and credibility as well, because they all can see and feel them. They live in the community. So that would be the messenger part, and I think the emotional connection is implied from the stories of Bakari and Anissa. And finally, I'll end with a message where thematically it will revolve around the people, the host community, and the impact. Somebody put it as transforming lives. So the impact and sustainability of what they're doing, and these are the main thematic areas that the message will focus on. I hope I represented you on my team. Thank you.
That is interesting. Jifa has a question for you. Jifa from Group 3.
Okay.
Jifa, I see your hand up.
Oh, that was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, rather, it's Gifty. Gifty and up here.
Yes, I'm clapping for my teammate.
All right. Okay. So I would want to listen to group 5, but two things. I'm wondering why nobody is talking about the investor. Somebody is sitting up there and saying that because people's lives have been improved, I'm willing to pump in more money. Shouldn't that person be telling the story? I'll listen to group 5, but please, I kindly do me this favor, just the chat box. Ivy just dropped in the link. So please kindly click on it. All right. So while we are listening, you just fill it for us. It will just take you 2 minutes. Give us honest feedback. And we have lots of things coming up next so that we can improve. We also want to hear the positive things from you and what you've learned from tonight. We will love to share some of them on our social media pages. So please do this for us. Group 5, who do we have?
Yeah, Catherine here. Speaking
Hi,
for
Catherine.
Group 5. Hi, Sammy.
All right. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yes, so Group 5, we believe that the primary focus of our message will be on the company and what they do, but also highlighting on the impacts on our contribution to the economy, on the impacts we are making in our host community. So we'll highlight that, but we'll also focus on what the company is doing, because we believe that a first visitor to the website should know what we do first before looking at what impact we are making, so that we have the connection there. And for the messenger, obviously it's Anissa and Bakari who are like the stars of the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, Anissa, because we believe her story will inspire hope, and that will project it in a way that if given the right opportunities, anybody can soar, anybody can reach their full potential. So, and then we also chip in with the company who is committed, who is helping the youth to achieve their dreams, to link it with that, and to show that they are committed to helping the youth achieve their dreams through education, by supporting education. And then I think this is the emotional connection. Yes, we want to link the impacts of the organization to the company's overall purpose. What is our purpose? And which we've stated there, and supporting people like Anissa. So the approach will be using human-centered stories instead of numbers. So we could have said that the company has invested $20,000 or $20,000 or whatever into education, and these are the figures. Okay, and this is how many people have gotten scholarships. But we want to
like
use
we
the
typically do these days.
Yeah, but using people like Anissa to project that this is the impact that we are making with our investments, like in the field of education. And we believe that if you show people, instead of people will easily connect if you show them the evidence instead of just saying it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So please, any question, give the hand up here. That was an interesting thing that you wrote. Okay, Debbie has your hand raised. Debbie, what do you have to say?
Yes, so you mentioned that if we can look at somebody who wants to invest, but then we thought that for us to be known and get more investors, we need to have a memorable character who would drive the story of whatever we want to achieve. And that is why we concentrated on, Anissa, so that she will be like a strong person who will carry the story, so that anytime people come to our website, somebody also mentioned about tax. A lot of people think that, okay, taxes are being paid, but even government is not using it to improve the lives of people. But then if we have that person who we portray that directly we invested in this person, and so this is what we are giving back to the community from our work, it will stick more and even get more people to invest in us, and also the community to trust that we have their interest at heart. So that is why we concentrated on ANISA.
Brilliant, brilliant. So for me, one of the things that is so powerful for me tonight is about the grass to grace story, and great point from Kwame Jan and David Lennon. We really need to tell stories, but you need to look at the person's dignity and put it out there. Please, the event survey is on, so kindly click on it and fill it for us. I will really, really be grateful to have that from you. So thank you to group number 5. I think that overall, what the standout thing for us here is that people have to connect to our stories. And so when we go back to our companies, we need to look at how we tell the stories. I mean, the About Us page for me was just something that clicked. You can go and look at it and look at your company's purpose and what you do and redefine it. So in this company, for example, based on all that you have said, I foresee me going on the website and clicking and seeing something like 25-year-old, what's the name of the lady? Is it Bakari? It's a medical doctor with a standing record. She comes from a village which has not seen a medical doctor for the past 50 years. And until she came on the, on the scene, people had to travel 350 miles and so on. Through her, 100 people, get primary health care every year. This is what our company stands for. And that is why our value is to improve lives and create value through shared prosperity. We came on the scene in this year and we have been able to, then we employ about 5,000 people, out of which 60% come from the communities in line. So when the story is like this, people can easily connect. Instead of saying that our company was founded in 1910, it was founded to do this. This is our mission, this is our vision. So I think that we can give ourselves an assignment, go back to the stories that we tell on our website. That is just one. But based on also what David said, I picked a few nuggets that I would want to just go through briefly, and then we can call it a night. One of them is this. When they started a Netflix program, they got Peter and some people to sit down and analyze the cocaine trade, the stories behind the cocaine trade and how it works. And so for us at Comms People, when we go back to our companies, let us sit down and understand what our companies do. The truth of the matter is that you cannot be a better communicator for the company if you don't understand what they do. And as I was listening to Kwame Jan, as somebody in the mining industry, like you can tell this man understood the business of mining when he worked for mining. And once you do that, you are better able to know the nuances and the stories that will attract people. If you don't know, you have to ask those who know. And so they dealt with Steve Matthews and co, who were eyewitnesses, and they could bring in the authentic part of the story. They also spoke about, David spoke about one thing, which he said that you have to let your audience see the story as they would tell it if they were the ones telling the story, right? So your audience, when you are talking, yes, this is how I would tell the story. And so for those of us who are from the media background, sometimes when we get to corporate, we throw all the journalism we did after that and start writing, corporate language, and then our stories are no longer impactful. So that is one of the things that I picked from David. But I'll give him the chance to just sum up everything for us tonight. And then, but before that, maybe please, team, Maurice, Kwame, Jifa, Debbie, all of you. Does anybody have a final comment to make on tonight's session? Then David will come, and then I will close us now.
Sami, I just want to say that it's been very beneficial, especially to me, because as you know, I'm just switching from pure typical mainstream media to corporate comms. So it's been very helpful for me. And I've been watching, I'm somehow addicted to Netflix. So to have someone who has been involved in a production on Netflix, have this chat, I think it's just great. So I just want to say thanks to you and to all those who organize this. Perhaps more of this as we move on.
Absolutely.
And also great networking. I mean, Nana Boache, we've not had a conversation in a very
right.
long time, and all the other people that we met across Africa and the world as well. So it's been great.
Thank you, Gifty. And the truth is that yes, you are switching to mainline, but you are switching to corporate comms, but you agree from tonight's conversation that you have that superpower. And some of the mistakes some of us did. I remember once my boss called me and said, when you came from the media, you were writing such impactful stories, even for our internal communication. But you've thrown all away and you are doing corporate writing, and it's not making impact. So I had to go back and I know you to be a great storyteller. You've won a CNN award and all that. So please carry that same skill and translate that into the work you do, and you'll be a star just the same way you've been a star on our screens for years.
Thank you. It's not been easy though, working with technical advisors. I work a lot with technical advisors, and they want to see the technical language that they have written at the end of the day. So it's not been easy. Maybe the next chat we can have, it should be about how you navigate these waters.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Gifty. Anybody else? And then Dave comes in and we take a group picture. So those who can turn on their cameras before we leave. Okay, so I'm not seeing any hand up. David Lennon.
Samuel,
yes.
Before David, this is Yao. I'm sorry,
yes, Yao.
I've been listening. I wanted to personally thank David, for sparing time with us. This is a very important exercise, and his sharing his insights has really helped us to appreciate some of the key lessons that we learn in communication and journalism. And it's been a refresher for me. And I'm very sure a lot of the people on here will agree that indeed he's done a great job for himself as an individual as well. So I just want to send a very personal thank you to David, for agreeing to speak, and also to thank you for giving comms people across Africa the opportunity, to interact, connect with each other, but also to learn key principles in communication. We can never go wrong with telling stories and telling them in an impactful way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Yao. Thank you so much. And Yao has been a great partner in this production. Yao, David, and I, we connect almost every week ahead of this. And he met David in Rwanda. Yao and I were supposed to travel to Rwanda 2 years ago. He met David, and when I put this program together, I say, hey, David is a great guy. Let's bring him. Contacted him, and then the three of us had this bond, and tonight we have this. So many thanks to you, Yao. I have Constance on, your hand is raised, Constance, briefly, and then we go to David and Constance, please speak up.
Thank you, Samuel. Just a quick one. Awesome session. I just want to give a quick question to David. What kind of cameras does he use? Thank you.
Yeah. And David, before you answer that, disclaimer that Constance is the digital comms person in my team. So she's a brilliant digital comms person. So I'm sure she's interested in all the gimmicks you do, please.
Yeah. So right now, the last couple of years, the Sony FS7s are what our camera crews have used. I want to make it abundantly clear to everyone that I have no technical ability. I stand behind the people that can do things on shoots and in edits. And so I rely on what they say is best, and that's what we go with. But the Sony FS7s tends to be a good all-rounder for what we need and the type of work that we do. It doesn't mean that we won't change cameras for certain shoots, and depending on the project, depending on the industry and the places that we're filming, we might have conversations and change things up. But Sony FS7s, certainly in New York, last couple of years have tended to be the camera that everyone kind of goes to in our space. So hopefully that helps you. The other thing I wanted to say was Gifty. I don't know if she's just left, but where she was talking about convincing people who want to go technical, it's like, I'll just re-impress. It's like, you can never force people to take what they should have. So I think you've got to always give them what they want, or what they think they want. But then I think you've got to present alongside that, and it could be one or multiple versions of, but versions of what they actually need. And I think a lot of people, especially in business, especially people at the top of a company, you know, they'll bring in storytellers, whether it's internal comms teams or external agencies or people like us, to come in and to tell their story. And they've already told that story the same way numerous times, and they feel confident and safe in that space. And so that's what they want to do. And it's really up to us as storytellers to present a range of options and tell them what we think is best. And, you know, if I was paying for this, this is what I'd do and why. And these are the benefits that you're going to get out the back of it. You won't win every fight. We certainly don't. And like I say, you know, jobs like Cocainomics or Zurich or even Geico, you know, the planets align and everything works out. And it's great. We get to go and make great stories with our teams. But for the most part, it's a struggle. And so it's working out what a victory is. And a victory might just be moving a client a small step outside of their comfort zone. But if you do it well, and the thing I always say to my teams and everyone who works for me is, we have to become friends with all of our clients, and we have to treat them like they're our old mates and we've known them for years. And we have to over deliver to them. And when we do that, their confidence levels go up. We edge them out of their comfort zone, and year after year after year, when we work with them, we can take them on that journey, you know? So it's understanding that going too far is always going to get a no, but showing that there's a spectrum will really help.
Okay, David, thank you. We'll wrap up in a bit. I want to, please, I understand that we have just 11 of us filling our survey for us. Please, if you agree, we've had a great session, so about 15.
Fill it in. So everyone's got to
yes,
fill it.
So it's in the chat box, so please do this. Now, I want to put a very great lady.
Sammy, it's difficult for me to access it, so maybe it can be sent in an email.
Okay, I think she sent it also on the group pages, and she's just dropped it again, so kindly check and let's see. Thank you. Thank you. Is Marie's here? Marie's from the Africa Communications Week, a very, very great page of African professionals. And she actually is the one who approved me on the page some time back. And I thought Marie could give us a word if you're still here. Marie, are you on? Oh, I lost out on Maurice. You're not here? Yeah, I think I did. Okay. So anybody else has anything to say? Please just fill the form for me.
Okay, Sammy. Yeah, I just filled
Yes,
the
Catherine,
form,
please.
I can speak now.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to add a bit to what David said about the technical bits. Yes, it can be a struggle, but I think what worked for me is for you to understand what they do. So if it's a technical person or it's a technical department, go to them, use your journalistic experience, ask the right questions to get an understanding of what they do. And then you can use that to craft a story, which more often than not, it is accepted by them because they see themselves in there. You came to them, they explain it, and you have written it in a way that, let's say, the ordinary person will understand. So always go to them, get an understanding of what they do, ask the right questions to generate the kind of stories that you want to make. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's the bit
Thank,
I want to share.
thank you very much, folks. We won't go past 9 o'clock here. So
Sammy,
David, just
can
wrap
I-
up for us with that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna wrap up when I talk to what Catherine said, and it takes me to the start of my story. My old university tutor, John Sherfield, used to say, the only rule in advertising, and let's call it storytelling as a whole, but the only rule in storytelling is that there are no rules, right? So we'd say that, but then he'd follow it up with stuff such as, Catherine, what you said, which is, he'd always say, go and walk the factory floor. So if we were working in advertising and we were trying to sell a product, don't write about the product. Go to the factory floor where it's built, talk to the workers, understand the product, and hear their stories, and that will spark something creatively. And it's exactly what you said there, Catherine. Go and speak to the people that are hands-on with this stuff and understand their perspective on the story. And you might help them see different angles. They'll certainly help you and give you a ton of storytelling ideas that then you can work out how, the route of the storytelling can change, and you can do something that's new and exciting and kind of unlocks a concept for people that maybe is hard to understand if it's technical. Overall, thank you to everyone who's listened. I know it's Friday night for a lot of you, so I appreciate everyone staying on with me and Sammy. I've had a lot of fun doing this. Big shout to Group 1, who I was part of. I thought we've done a really good job. And everyone is like, you're welcome. Please jump on my LinkedIn, get me on there. And then if you've got any questions that weren't answered today, I'm more than happy to answer you on LinkedIn. So yeah, thank you for your time and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you very much, David, and great session, everyone. Please permit me to thank my team. I have a very young team, dedicated team. So I'm going to just Ivy has been the coordinator for Think Stories, and she's Ivy Unchi. I already introduced her. Thank you, Ivy, for a wonderful job. Our creative director, surprise, surprise, is a young lady. So all the artworks that you saw, on Think Stories, the posters, the logos, the designs were all done by Tracy Upon Ampa. Tracy, are you there? And then we have Ishmael Mate. Ishmael was responsible for content. Okay, I can see Tracy, but your camera is off. You don't want them to appreciate you. Can we see your face if it's possible? Okay. Okay, please, I want you to appreciate this young lady. Yeah, she did all the artworks and the motion graphics and everything. Brilliant young lady. Just finished her national service, and we are on the market. She's great working for us. So and then Ishmael Mati was responsible for for content, echo, and for publicity. And we have Nasiba, Jeffrey, and all of you. I see that people are leaving, but thank you everybody. Any one of our star people that I've met, Margaret Blankson, thank you. These have been the wonderful thing that I've worked with. Please fill the form. We are coming up with some great stuff. I almost feel like I should let you know what is coming up next, but we are cooking up something really great. We may be doing something around female storytellers globally and bring you some international stars in that field as well. So please stay tuned and look out for what we are bringing next. But David Lennon, thank you so much, please. Thank you again. Now, can you, those of you on, please turn on your camera. I beg you. We want to just take a group photo before we go. Please. Everybody kindly turn on your camera and give us the best laughter that you can, a smile, the most beautiful smile that you have.
We just hope the light will be good enough.
Oh,
yes,
it's perfect.
It's perfect. So, all right, Ivy, when you take, let us know. Otherwise, our grains will stay on for too long.
Yes, let's wait. Let's just wait. There's two more people. Jeffrey and Margaret, if you could turn it on. Okay, so I'm about to take it in 3, 2, 1, and smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me take one more. Sammy, what should we do? Yes, what should we do?
Say
Maybe we should wait.
stories. I want to see
Please hold on.
stories.
Please
All right,
hold on.
all right.
So 3, 2, 1. Let's say stories.
Stories. Stories. All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your night. Dave, we catch up, and please catch up with him on LinkedIn. Also, finally, though, we have a lot of content on social media. Please share for us. Just share the content on your statuses, just so people who didn't join will get to know what we spoke about. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us. Have a great weekend, sir.
Hey, Nate, you. I didn't see your face.
Sam, I was here.
Now I see your face. Thank you, buddy. And thanks for all the support.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Right.
Please,
Yao has been outstanding with his support and helping me get David, after the Rwanda meeting. Thank you.
Now for find somebody necessary. Charlie, thank you, Sammy. Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Bye. So we are closing the meeting now. Bye-bye, Ivy. Maurice, I can see your face. Bye-bye.
Oh, we are playing videos. It's okay, we are playing videos.
Sammy, I'm going to give you a quick call, okay?
Sure, my man. Sure.
Hold
On
on,
standby.
man.
Bye.